What's going on, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Jake and Joe Bengals preview show presented by First Star Logistics. He's Joe Goodberry. I'm Jake Liscow, and we've got you covered here on the First Star Logistics media channel here on YouTube, where we're going to cover for the rest of the year. Even though the Bengals are 3-7, they've got the worst DVOA defense of all time, one of the worst defenses in the last 25 years. Whatever. We don't care what's going on there. We do care, but we're going to be here either way, and we'll have the biggest stories around the Bengals covered for you on the preview show. We'll also dive in to the matchup, and this week it's the 8-game winning streak, New England Patriots visiting Paycor, the Bengals without Jamar Chase, and a pretty shameful incident for Jamar on the field against the Steelers that has turned a lot of fans against him, Joe, and maybe we talk about that a little bit, as the Bengals will need to find a bit of a replacement for Jamar's productivity this week against the Patriots. That's certainly one of the big stories this week that we'll be getting to in this episode of the preview show. And just want to shout out our delightful partners, First Star Logistics, where you own your future in freight. If you're ready to build and own your own book of business, First Star Logistics offers Cincinnati's premier employee-to-agent program, empowering freight brokers to achieve independence in as little as 12 months. You can accelerate your career with an asset-backed leader. You can apply today at firststarlogistics.com. More than an MC, they're your launchpad to a bright future in the freight industry. And boy, would it be nice, Joe, if we were talking about a bright future for these Cincinnati Bengals, where
Nice.
Joe Burrow's working his way back into 11-on-11s this week. And it's just like, all right, great, cool, man. And then we got to talk about whether he should return, which should be very exciting, but may not be the best thing for the Bengals long term. We'll get to that topic here as well. We're going to start with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase very late Tuesday, learned that his appeal had been denied. Jordy Nelson presiding. At least it wasn't Ramon Foster.
I saw you tweet that. I thought the same thing.
Ramon Foster is one of the 3 NFL representatives who's overseeing disciplinary appeals, and obviously
former longtime Steeler, if you don't know. Yeah.
It would have been ridiculous. Jordy Nelson at least was a wide receiver. Like that's probably the most sympathetic audience that Jamar could have had. But his defense was reportedly, if I was going to spit on him, I would have spit in his face. Which
that was the defense. I didn't read that. So
I don't know if that was actually what they went with, but that's what Rappaport reported.
Oh,
that's what they were planning to do. And I would have gone with no one's ever been suspended for spitting on somebody in NFL history. And nobody's ever been fined more than like $30,000 for spitting on somebody in NFL history. Jamar loses over $500,000. I tend to agree with Zach Taylor here, Joe, that this should not define your opinion of Jamar Chase as a human being. But the way he talked about it after the game certainly has rubbed fans the wrong way. Many saying like, yeah, if he just owned up to it, fine. But he didn't. And so this is something that unfortunately makes Jalen Ramsey into the good guy, makes the Steelers into the good guy again in this rivalry that has had all these rule changes that have come about as a result of what the Steelers have done on the field. And, well, now the Bengals are the bad guy again.
Yeah, against the Steelers, right? They always seem to like just nudge you over the edge, and then you're the ones taking the penalty for it. But I got 2 thoughts on the whole subject. One, if you're gonna spit, just fight. You know what I mean? I'd have more respect if you just AJ Greened it and just throw the gloves down and let's go. Take the helmets off this time. AJ Green punching Jalen Ramsey in the helmet. But I have more respect for that. So I was like, dang, Jamar, it's such a nasty look. It's an ugly look to spit on somebody. It's disrespectful. It's the lowest form of disrespect you can put on somebody. So if you're willing to do that, just fight. And on the other hand, I thought Zach Taylor handled it great. And if that is the message he tried to give to Jamar also, like, listen, this doesn't have to define you. You can grow from this point. You're a leader. We know who you are. Bad moments happen. And as a Bengals fan, the Steelers make me think things, make me feel things that I don't normally feel and think in a normal day. But when the Bengals play the Steelers, I do not like that team. And I if you could read my thoughts, I probably want to have a job anywhere in the world. So like, I feel it and I understand it. And I can see why you can get pushed to that point. But you can't let it define you. It's not going to define who I think Jamar Chase is, right? It's not. I still think he's a good dude. I do think he loses his cool, though. There are other moments in other games throughout his career where I think he can be edged just a little bit past where you want to go. Chiefs games come to mind, and he had a couple penalties in different games, and it just seems at times like you got to reel him in. And Ramsey has always been a thorn in the Bengals side. The Bengals fans have very low respect for him as it is, but spitting on somebody is even lower than that. And I don't think it should ever get to that point. And we don't have him this week, that means. And that's what cost your team, not just, the moment, the emotion and everything that happened when it happened on the field, but now it's carrying over into the next game where you don't have your best player. And that's never where you want to be if you're actually trying to climb into this thing. And again, they're 3-7, so the season's basically over. And now you're going into one of the hottest teams and going against the Patriots, who seem to be on course or at least fighting for the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's not a good look. It's not a good thing altogether. And I agree. The argument should have been no one's ever been fined $500,000 for spitting, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a big penalty, and so he now misses a game, loses a game check. It's the thing that I would take away from this, if I'm Jamar Chase, is you can't really dwell on it, right? And it's going to come up the next, 5 years, his entire career. For a while, when the Bengals play the Steelers, this is going to come back up. The way Vontaze Burfict's history always came up whenever these teams played. You just have to let it be in the past, not give more fuel to the fire here. When you make mistakes, and everybody's made mistakes in life, you can dwell on them, you can ruminate, you can put yourself into a self-destructive pattern that leads to you recreating mistakes or making it worse. And we've seen that on the football field for this team in the past against this team. Or you can just see it as a learning opportunity and try to move on and try to take away from that what you can take away from that and try to grow as a person. I think that's what we should expect to see from Jamar Chase, given his track record of growth in Cincinnati over time. He also needs to, you pointed out the Chiefs and the Steelers. Those seem to be the ones that get under his skin more than others, where there are occasional times when you watch Jamar Chase, and for all of his skill and ability, sometimes he just wants to fight instead of just making somebody's
sometimes you got to fight,
eat his dust, and he just wants to fight instead of using a release package to get off press, and he just wants to fight somebody at when he's pressed. And so something that I think we'll continue to see him get better about as time goes on, but
he's still young.
Could be considered a bit of a setback here, and hopefully it's a big learning opportunity for him. I'm not turning against him as a player, but the individual action, certainly not defensible. But as you said, Joe, the Bengals now have to replace the production of Jamar Chase, which they will not successfully do, but they will try. Somebody has to play wide receiver, and when you go from one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league, to, all right, is Jermaine Burton going to be active this week and get some snaps? Is it just going to be a whole lot of Mitch Tinsley, or are they going to maybe get Charlie Jones on the field on offense, which we haven't seen a whole lot of this year? Or are they going to go 12 personnel a bunch? What will the answer be is a question for the Bengals this week as they try to figure out, well, is Jermaine Burton ever going to get on the field this year? One question. Two, maybe Mitch Tinsley's role can expand. Maybe this is an opportunity for Mitch Tinsley to say, hey, I should be a bigger part of this offense. Those are the two guys that I think are top of mind. But part of the question for Burton is he even going to be active this week?
If Jermaine Burton's not active this week, man, there's no hope for him. There's no chance. This is the game he should be active. If he can, and it's the hard part is he knows all week that he's probably going to be active if he is going to be. Can he keep it together for 1 week to get out there and make a play, run 10 routes, 15 routes? I mean, we've talked about wide receiver 3 and the impact of this offense and how much this team needs to rely on a third option to step up. That's the second most catches on the team right now, Chase Brown. Like you need a wide receiver 3 to make some plays. And the last 3 weeks have been double. So we're not going to get that this week. So that should change everything. But they're not going to double T Higgins. Oh, yes, they are. And it's Christian Gonzalez is a very good corner. Plus, I'm sure they're going to have safety help. We need to see Jermaine Burton, Andre Joseph, Mitch Tinsley, Charlie Jones. Are they good enough at these depth positions at receiver? Because as of now, you say no, they're not. And you can't really funnel more resources than you have to the receiver position. Then they've got 2 big contracts. They spent a 3rd round pick trying to, get that 3rd guy to be good. You need these guys to get reps because they don't even play them. They don't even put Charlie Jones out there. Mitch Tinsley barely goes out there. We haven't seen Jermaine Burton since the Eagles game last year. It's been a full year. They have to play number 1. We're in evaluation mode on every other position. You didn't think he'd get there at receiver, kind of forced to do it at receiver, but take the opportunity to see it and see what these guys can do because all of them are under contract for next year. You need to see if they can help you, or do I have to spend a 3rd round pick at receiver, a 4th round pick at receiver? Right. You're shaking your head. I don't want to do that either, but they need to find out if any of these guys can help and alleviate some of the pressure off T and Jamar when they are healthy and ready to go. And I banged my desk.
It's just a luxury that they don't have. I think that if they had hit on some of these defensive picks, we could be talking about, they can be pretty open to BPA.
Yeah.
They could, but instead we're like, they desperately are hoping one of these Ohio State guys. I mean, we're way ahead of time here, but like Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs, those are 2 names
People
I know.
would love us to start talking about it right now.
I mean, they're 2 names I know in November, Joe.
That's not a good sign.
And like you, I don't know many names at this time. Ruben Bain, there's another name.
I know that one.
That I know. I know 3 names.
Peter Woods, Clemson defensive tackle.
Yep, 4 names. Look at all these names.
So. Ooh, we know names.
Look at all these names.
That's the start. That's how it starts inside you, and then you're watching film.
But the point I'm trying to make here is, it's like maybe there's a wide receiver. I don't think there's another Ohio State guy. I think anyway. There's a wide receiver staring you in the face, and you're like, you know what? Miles Murphy had finished the year with like 5 sacks for us in the last 5 games. He was getting consistent pressure. Chris Jenkins really figured it. I mean, these are varying degrees of departing from reality, but like maybe Miles Murphy does break out a little bit for you. Maybe I can't come up with another one. They're going to have desperate needs.
McKinley Jackson played this week. He had 16 snaps. He was okay. He looked like he can be an NFL player.
As he has when he's been on the field, I think, for this team. But they won't have that luxury to consider the wide receiver. So that's why I shake my head. And we're not going to go down that rabbit hole any further because we could. But they could absolutely use an injection of talent at wide receiver because Joseph didn't take that step this year when there was all that hype around him in the preseason. Hasn't had a year that's, as they say with the English football, covered himself in glory. It's not been so good for you. You never heard that one?
Never heard that. Covered himself in glory. Okay, let's do it.
That's a British football term, I believe. I hope, or somebody has led me astray, and we're going to need to censor that. But if Tinsley's that guy, great. Tinsley's answered the call when he's been on the field.
Oh, sure.
I'm excited to see him get more of a shot, maybe some more targets because. Love his demeanor. Love the way that he capitalizes on opportunities. But that is an opportunity this week for the team to figure out a little bit more about what they have at wide receiver, put some guys on the field. The other topic this week, Joe, before we get into, I think there's a couple more. They got some guys activated off of IR that we can talk about in Dejon, or activated, starting their 21-day window to return in Dejon Anthony and Mike Gesicki, who joined Joe Burrow in that category. And Joe Burrow is where we go now. Joe Burrow in week 2 out of that 21-day window that he has to return to the team, to return to the active roster. And by all accounts, listening to Zach Taylor, most reports, Joe's going to play regardless of what's going on with this team's record. Even if they lose this week, they drop to 3-8. They have an outside shot of getting to 9-8 if Joe Burrow comes back and they win every single game, which the way the defense is going, pretty hard to project that kind of success, that kind of run. Sounds like he's going to try to come back and play. There's one report I've seen, Joe, that says, maybe the organization steps in. And that's from Jeremy Fowler with ESPN on Wednesday. But as he's progressing into 11 on 11, if everything continues to go well for him this week, who's going to tell Joe Burrow no? That remains the question.
Yeah, and even progressing him to 11 on 11 is a step forward. So like you're taking steps towards that door of playing him already. And it seems like it's inevitable that he will suit up for the Bengals this year, despite the record. And that's kind of that's who he is. We've said this for a long time. We want guys to embrace his attitude. We want guys to want to play through injury, do everything they can that has winning on the forefront of their mind, personal success, team success, just looking good, right? Not continuing the disaster that has been 2025. I think Burrow stands for all of those things and wants to go out there and end the season on a high note because that's who he is. They don't care about draft picks. Players do not care. So that's why we've also talked about, like, if you had a real GM and a real front office in place, maybe they would save him from himself with an eye on 2026, force some of these young guys to play, force Burrow to just relax and chill out, and embrace the tank, if you will, and get that high draft pick. But it's just not the way your quarterback's wired. And that's why it's why we want Burrow to be the quarterback, number one. And number two, it's why you don't see teams with good quarterbacks, even in an injury season or anything, ever embrace the tank, because you don't want to let that infect the entire team and the roster. And this team is already infected with some major softness on the defensive side. I think that if anything, they're trying to inject a little bit of life and energy and confidence in this team by letting Joe Burrow get on that field. So I kind of get it. But at the same time, I think it also leans to, well, so what do we want to see with Burrow out there? And do we want to let Jalen Rivers continue to develop? He's gotten 400 plus snaps this year. Like, that's great development. But can we allow him to continue to have 5 pressures per game with Burrow back there when you have other answers at guard and Dalton Reisner and maybe Lucas Patrick can get over his calf he's been dealing with forever and can get on there. But I think there are they have to look at that and say, okay, well, what do we want this offense to look like with Burrow, especially if, and this is the biggest part, like if Taylor's going to be here, if Dan Pitcher is going to be here, like, what do we want this offense to grow into? What do we want to try for 2026? And I'm not advocating for those things. I'm just saying, like, that from their perspective, that's probably what they're trying to accomplish over the whatever games he plays.
Yeah, I think especially you make the Rivers point, especially with the kinds of pressure that Rivers allows, how he gets beat, that doesn't seem very synergistic with the way we've seen Joe Burrow play quarterback. Obviously, it's going to be a bit of a different Joe Burrow if or when he does return with the carbon fiber or steel plate in his shoe to try to save those toes from hyper extending again and risking re-injury. But that's really what it boils down to for me, Joe, is what is the risk of re-injury? What is the risk of tearing this thing again? Because if that risk is bigger than what we say, bigger than the Bengals' chances of making the playoffs, that's right. What we came down to last week. Right now, the Bengals' chance of making the playoffs is like 1%.
Right.
If they win this game, maybe it goes up a couple percentage points, get to 4-7. Maybe you start to think that but like, what are the odds they're winning this game? We're going to talk about the matchup in a second here. The Patriots, incredibly hot. The Bengals can't fix any issues on defense. Maybe one. They found something that's going to work a little bit. We'll talk about that as well. And I think you covered it a little bit in the Bengals on the Brain film breakdown with Miles Murphy on this YouTube channel earlier this week. But yeah, that is the question to me is, what is the risk of re-injury? We will never know that on the outside, but if he's wearing protective footwear, which he will be, then that's a risk of re-injury that you have to consider if you're the Bengals. And as far as the other guys coming back from IR, Zach Taylor said on Wednesday that Mike Gesicki is ready to hit the ground running and may be able to play against the Patriots. So we'll see how the rest of the week has gone for Mike Gesicki into the weekend. It might be a little bit longer for Dejon Anthony, it sounds like, but we'll see how that proceeds for those couple of guys that have been activated on IR.
Man, I would have guessed the exact opposite. I feel like because it's been so long for Anthony that he should have been ready coming off a hamstring. And I think originally we all thought that Gesicki like tore his pec pretty good, and it sounds like he had a fine recovery.
Yeah. The feeling on Dejon Anthony is initially, well, maybe he can push the Bengals starting safeties. Maybe they liked him last year. I
Yeah,
know it's a different defensive staff, but the initial reaction that I saw, I woke up and I opened up Twitter, I'm scrolling Twitter. Oh, does this mean the Bengals were planning to make a change at safety? That's what the speculation was. And I mean, we're talking about a late round pick here, but we've also been talking about Tyson Anderson for a while at this point. Like,
yeah,
couldn't be worse in a lot of ways than what we're seeing, especially like the last 6 weeks. Like Geno Stone was not terrible to start the season.
agreed.
Last 5-6 weeks, it's been really bad, and some of the low light moments, I guess, against the
He's
Steelers.
embraced the tank. If there's any player, he's embraced it since their season's gone off the rails.
Some business decisions being made.
I mean, it can't be good for business for him, for personal business. How many teams are going to look at this tape and go, you know what? We could use this on the team.
Look, man, Geno Stone's collected what, $13 million?
He's done well.
It's pretty good money. It could be a different kind of business we're talking about for Geno Stone. But is there anything else storyline wise we want to get to? Let's talk a little bit about Miles Murphy's week.
Okay.
Give me the high level. You can tease your Bengals on the brain show here, because I thought it was a pretty impressive game for him, especially in the first half. When Mason Rudolph enters the game, the Steelers offense kind of changes a bit. Whatever the Bengals had planned stopped working for the two Mason Rudolph drives in the second half, both of which were successful. But the big thing that I noticed when I was watching, Joe, is they weren't sending linebackers on blitzes, or fewer replacement pressures, fewer instances of defensive ends in coverage. More, we're going to rush 5, and they're going to be 5 defensive linemen, more 5 down linemen, and all of them are rushing. What do you think the adjustment was, and how well did it work?
Yeah, that was the big thing coming out of the bye week. What's Al Golden going to do? You've got extra time to prepare. What changes can you make? And they were more of an odd man front this week, a 3-4 or 5-2, however you want to call it. And I think that's a good thing. Like, they start the game right away at defensive tackle. It's BJ Hill, TJ Slayton, McKinley Jackson, right? No Jordan Jefferson. No, Chris Jenkins isn't in that. Like, they're saying we want the big body beef up front, and we're going to kick out Miles Murphy and Joseph Osai at the edge positions, give them a little more space to operate. Gives everyone a one-on-one up front. I think it simplifies things. It takes away some of the biggest weaknesses they had on defense, which was they would like kind of morph into a 3-4 or 5-2 with Demetrius Knight being the edge guy, and then you'd kick an edge guy inside to defensive tackle. So now you're extra small on that side, and they were getting killed in the run game with that. And you're not good at pass rushing like that because Knight can't rush the passer. So this simplified and fixed a couple of those issues that they were routinely having. And I thought it worked. I thought the defense took a step forward. Now, at the end of the day, the wheels fell off because the effort wasn't there on the back half, especially at safety and tackling at linebacker in the middle of the field, just got exposed big time. Plus, they lost Cam Sample, which not a big hit, but it's those guys started to wear down at defensive end. They were getting more snaps than they've ever had. And also, if you want just specifically Murphy flashed instantly and started to look like he was going to be a handful, at least for the Steelers offensive line. They moved him from right end to left end, moving him around, letting him, get chances on both sides. He's always had a really good get off. And I think towards like the third quarter, the Steelers started to put extra help on that side and put the tight ends over on that side just to slow his get off or make it inconsistent for him. And that really started to, on one hand, a sign of respect that, hey, this guy's probably a little bit of a problem for us here. And on the other hand, something that Murphy would have to deal with if he's going to be a starter and a guy that has a get off that really alerts offenses that, hey, this guy could wreck your play if you let him have this. So it's interesting watch for me. His moves still aren't there, but you know what? It was one of his better games. If he can build off this, maybe you have something. They need some answers on these guys. So 2 things there. 1, you may have a guy that you can use in the future, Miles Murphy. And then 2, this is probably what the defense should look like going forward with this 5-2 front.
I thought Murphy played more physically overall. I thought that he deserves credit for playing with that edge that we've been
Awareness
talking about
too
for him.
Was really good for him.
And the motor, those 3 things go together to combine a productive day for Miles Murphy. I thought that his hands landed a little bit more. I know you're talking about the moves and whatnot, still not necessarily there at a technician level, the way that we
Right.
would talk about, say, like a Carl Lawson back the way that he won, a little bit different. But when you can combine the get off with hitting a swipe once and it leads to a roughing the passer penalty, but that's a clean win. He gets around that corner quick and falls into Aaron Rodgers' butt, unfortunately. And another time where
That's as clean of a win as he's ever had, too. So, like, it stinks because the NFL Pro app deleted that play because it was a penalty on it, and I
oh
had to go
really?
back and like grab it because I was like, man, this is a good
Yeah.
win.
Yeah. The other one was a hump move that was noticeable. And if he can speed to power, hump move, occasionally land that swipe, knock the outside hand down, turn that corner, then you're cooking a little bit. And I think for Miles, if he can think less and just react and have that experience to know, okay, if this is what I get, this is something that I can do that will work, and land those hands a little bit more, you could see continued development from him.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's what we see down the stretch. A pretty tough opportunity for him this week. The entire pass rush for the Bengals this week, where last week Joseph Osai and Miles Murphy both posting I assume season high pass rush win rates. Osai at 26%, Murphy at 17%, BJ Hill at 9.5%.
We'll take that from the edge, to be honest. That's a solid day.
Yeah. And it looked like it too. Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers was pressured pretty consistently. Like I said, second half, a bit of a different story. Against the Patriots, gets a lot tougher. And this is where we can transition into the matchup with the New England Patriots. Morgan Moses at right tackle is probably your weak link at tackle between the two, where Will
Still a
Campbell
solid player.
on the left side has been awesome. But yeah, that's where I was going, is Morgan Moses is a bit of an ageless wonder in his own right. He's now 35 years old, still playing at a pretty reasonable level. We've talked about Morgan Moses as a stopgap tackle for this team when they've needed tackles until they drafted Amarius Mims pretty much every year, I feel like, since I've been covering this team. And the opportunities for the Bengals in the pass rush will be on the interior, but Drake May is good. And he's
Very
got
good.
productivity from Kayshon Boutte, from Stephon Diggs, from Mac Hollins, from Hunter Henry. And obviously, you're starting to see Travion Henderson break out. This offense, an absolute handful. And the defense has honestly played against some subpar offenses lately. It still looked terrible. And now they're going to get a good offense and hold on to your butts, I think is a saying that we could go with.
We could go with that. And I like, anytime we get a team like this feels like a very 2021 Bengals for the Patriots, as they are getting year 2 of Drake May, who looks like an MVP candidate. I mean, the guy is throwing off platform. He's moving in the pocket really well. He's processing really well. He looks like the next best Joe Burrow. And you'll know what I mean, because his rhythm and timing and accuracy in the pocket is very, very good, but he can move within the pocket while keeping his eyes up to extend plays. It's going to be very Joe Burrow-esque, as you see that one there, that we've seen Burrow, look exactly like that for a long time. He's not going to run and do a bunch of crazy stuff, but he is elusive and will buy time in an effort to get to the next read. I think he's the MVP of the league so far. And I like that the Patriots have done a lot in free agency and in the draft to do this. Their offensive line was terrible with Scott Peters last year, and we have liked what Scott Peters has done as a whole this year for the Bengals. But when they draft Will Campbell in the first round, Jared Wilson, right? We wanted Jared. I like Jared Wilson a ton. So these Georgia boys are all doing pretty well. Wilson's coming off his best game of his career, according to PFF last week. He's playing left guard for them. They signed Garrett Bradbury. You add 2 veterans, one at right tackle, one at center. We still have a veteran that the only good offensive lineman they've had over the last few years at right guard. And then you basically go with rookies on the left side. I mean, it's a complete overhaul, plus getting Stephon Diggs and Travion Henderson. These are all newcomers coming in here to revamp your offense. I like it. And they did a lot of that on defense when we get to that part as well.
Yeah. And Drake May's development, certainly a big part of this. I mean, Kayshon Boutte out here being a breakout player, making Stephon Diggs a bit of a renaissance man, bouncing back at 32 years old, still playing a pretty good level of football for them, spreading the ball around to these weapons and a lot of vertical stuff. He's going to challenge the Bengals down the field. I'm pretty sure I saw this week that the Bengals are one of the worst teams in the NFL still, again, whatever you want to say, and explosive plays allowed on defense. And
A lot on missed tackles. It's not
that,
really much over their heads, right? It's underneath, you miss a tackle 20 yards.
Yeah. And well, we'll see how that goes this week. Cam Taylor-Britt expected to be done for the season. Josh Newton being out there, presumably as a replacement, may open up certain opportunities. And the Patriots have been so successful pushing the ball down the field, as you're seeing in a lot of these highlights.
Yeah.
That is something that
we should mention Pop Douglas as well, because he will beat you. And if we didn't mention his name, we would feel stupid on Sunday.
It's not Harry Douglas? What do you mean?
It is not
There's
Harry
another Douglas? Yeah, he's showing up here on a couple of these plays. The Bengals sure could use some of
we
that.
could
Look
use
at
a
this
Pop
guy
Douglas,
go.
yes.
Man, we've been talking about a Pop Douglas kind of player for years. And here's Drake May going over the top. This
Matt
is what
Collins.
I'm talking about. Yeah,
Another free agent.
They got guys that'll challenge you vertically. Is what
that's
I'm
what depth that receiver
here.
Looks like too. You know what I mean? Like we that's a transition there. Is like these guys are all making plays for you. Booty. I mean, none of these. If you said Demario Douglas, Booty, and Matt Collins were on par with what the Bengals had at depth behind Jamar and T, you'd say yeah. And then these guys are making plays down the field, and maybe those guys would for the Bengals if Burrow was in the game too.
Yeah, I think that's a fair distinction to draw. Is there's a quarterback playing at a pretty high level for New England, and that certainly helps things. And the other factor here is obviously the offensive coordinator, who is often maligned when he is asked to be a head coach. But Josh McDaniels,
on like his fourth stint with the Patriots,
when he is the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, tends to coach circles around you. And that is Al Golden's task this week. The other challenge from the Patriots offense will be Travion Henderson, who is breaking out. And what have you seen as you've watched Travion Henderson lately in the Patriots run game? Because he struggled to start the season, but really has come on of late.
Yeah, they were figuring out how to use him, he and Stevenson, because I think they didn't trust Henderson in pass protection. So is there like, and if you watch Ohio State, Judkins and Henderson were almost used opposite of each other. One guy's strictly inside where Henderson went a lot outside. So I think the Patriots were trying to mirror that and give him a lot of outside runs, which he ripped some off in that Patriots game. That speed, that long speed really is crazy for him. It's rare to find a running back like that. So he's ripping off runs at a high rate, but now he's starting to get all of the, it's funny because I posted numbers for Chase Brown versus the splits of what the other running backs are getting for the Bengals. So very similar how Chase Brown gets everything. He has the full menu, whereas they weren't doing that with Henderson, and now they are. And you're starting to see him get the rhythm of the game. He's starting to make guys miss at a consistent rate. He's starting to read things quicker and be faster in his movements. And I think now he just looks like, if you're going to spend a premium pick, I want him to look like this pretty early in his rookie year at running back. And I think he's hitting it now.
Yeah, and the Bengals have obviously struggled to defend the run, especially on the perimeter.
That's a sick move there.
I mean, there's a couple that we've seen.
Yeah.
There's that little toss that he takes for the touchdown. He gets help from his offensive line where, like, he's dead to rights, 5 yards in the backfield, sticks his foot in the ground. The Bengals have had tackling issues. I don't think this guy is going to be the cure to the Bengals tackling issues this week.
The Bengals have probably never looked slower than what I expect this game to look like.
Especially when trying to deal with Travion Henderson in open space. And Josh McDaniels is going to be a challenge for this defense. Is there any hope, Joe, for this defense at this point? Because I feel like every week we kind of have this conversation. It's like, yeah, well, if the defense, but like they're kind of not. And I made this point last week. I'll believe it when I see it with this defense at this point. What are you kind of looking for when you watch a defense at this point for the Bengals?
I was looking for the change coming out of the bye week, and I think we got that with the different defensive front look and hopefully get it kicking the ends out wider. And I thought that would help some of the guys and some of the issues they had. So we did see that. I'm hopeful that eventually we see another safety get mixed in for Geno Stone. But I'm with you on, is there actual hope? Like, this is the best offensive quarterback they've faced all year. And they were getting beat by the Bears and the Jets and the Patriots and Mason Rudolph. Like, it's not good. Like, we are in full-blown fire alarm situation with this Bengals defense being one of the worst it's been or in history. In DVOA, it is the worst in DVOA history against a Patriots offense that is absolutely humming with an MVP level quarterback. Like, how bad could it get? This is the game where you could get fired if you're Al Golden, because it could get very, very ugly.
And I still don't think anything is happening in season at this point.
I don't either.
I mean, maybe if they get to like,
but a decision could be made
like,
at this game. Maybe it doesn't happen, but maybe they go, you know what, we're going to have to move on.
I mean, a decision might already be made. Who knows? I mean, do you have any feeling as you watch the way Zach Taylor's carrying himself and
It seems
watching the
different.
team closely? Do we think that a decision has been made there?
I don't know that the decision's been made, but I feel like the fire is definitely rising and the heat is being turned up. I thought Zach, who's typically very cool and leader and face of the organization, his press conference was one of the more interesting ones this week, I thought. And maybe that was because he was feeling the defense of Jamar. And he said he had 12 like meetings about, in his office about how to conduct ourselves in leadership and, everything in the state of the team, basically. But when he was asked by Trags about the organization, I thought he danced around that completely, which to me, I thought the way Duke talked in the offseason was interesting for the first time because he was like, I would do this, we would do this, we should do this, and none of it happened. And then the way, Zach's talking right now, I'm like, man, you wonder if there is some fracturing going on.
I think there's cracks in the foundation showing, maybe bigger than cracks. Maybe we're going to start coming up with a word besides cracks. Fissures, and a little abyss forming, a little fault line in the organization, perhaps. But when the Bengals are on offense this week, Joe, it's going to be Joe Flacco again. He's not practicing, I believe,
He's hurt.
on
It doesn't
Wednesday
look right.
again. It got worse when he took that hit. It doesn't seem like the bye week was enough time for that thing to heal. He's going to continue to try to tough it out. The
There were
alternative was
open
Jake
players
Browning.
down the field. I don't know if you saw any of the clips on the offensive side from film. They were and I don't think he wanted to even try them.
I saw some. I think part of it is guys weren't uncovering quickly, and then you're starting to see the flaws in Joe Flacco's game come up. Like when he has simple, like I can trust Jamar Chase, T. Higgins to go win on this play. Great. Like when he can see the defense and be like, I know where the ball should go here. This is a guy that should be open. Great. But when it's not there the
You're
way
right
he
on.
wants it to be,
His
when a guy,
anticipation looks so much worse in those scenarios.
yeah, and when a guy doesn't uncover quickly, or when they're, when he can't just trust T and Jamar, then you start to see some turnover worthy plays and some uglier throws. And that's what we saw last week. We also didn't see Samaje Perine last week. It sounds like he's still doubtful. Trey Hendrickson's still doubtful. So some of the injury situation really not improving for the Bengals. I wonder what we'll see at right guard, where Jalen Rivers did have to leave the game last week, supposedly with an injury. We'll see if there's a change there this week or not.
Good time to do it without it sounding like a benching.
Yeah, and I didn't see anything from Zach Taylor's presser that indicated that, but perhaps by the time people are listening to this, there has been some additional discovery about the Bengals playing at right guard. But we talked about the challenge in this game for this offense without Jamar Chase. It's going to be very interesting to see how the offense approaches things schematically, because for all of the issues we have with this coaching staff, we have seen at least that they have been adaptive. They have been problem solving, especially on offense. And the Patriots defense, they're not world beaters. They're solid. And there's some guys having career seasons. The guy that we might hear his name called a few times on Sunday that you've never heard of before is going to be Corey Durden, who has 100 pass rushing reps or so for the Patriots this year and has a pass rush win rate of 21%. And this is a guy that was an undrafted free agent. He's on his third team in the last 3 years. He's been bouncing around, is playing in the B gap. He's playing a little bit outside of the B gap, but mostly playing between the tackles, and is winning, especially the last few weeks, at a very high rate for the Patriots. So there's an under the radar name to watch.
Without Milton Williams, that makes sense. He can get it inserted in that spot.
Yeah, gets in there for Milton Williams. Outside of that, like I said, this isn't a team that like screams this is a shutdown defense to you, but the way it went last week for the Bengals, the Steelers also should not be a shutdown defense, but at least they have the guys in the trenches. What are you looking for from the Bengals on offense this week, Joe? Are you thinking T. Higgins game? Are we thinking Mike Gesicki's return is going to change the plans? Are we thinking just big Chase Brown game? Where are you thinking when you're going if you're trying to figure out a direction without Jamar Chase?
Yeah, Chase Brown's been hot. Honestly, if you look at his advanced numbers, they look very similar to last year, despite it feeling like he's been underwhelming a little bit, but they just haven't, had as many games where they've leaned on him. And I think that this could be one of them. We'll see if Samaje Perine is back this week. If Gesicki is back, I think that does help. Obviously, your receiving options and maybe can open up the playbook a little bit for them. He's still a guy you have to figure out how to cover and who you want to cover him with. And I think, honestly, Gesicki could have helped broken up some of those double-double looks that you were getting from the defense. Because if you want a linebacker to cover Gesicki, great. We'll take that matchup all day long. I think you'd want to put a safety on him or a corner if you can to cover him. But I think he's a hard cover either way. Bengals haven't used him, so maybe it wouldn't have been a big thing this last week. But the defense for the Patriots is interesting to me too as well. Just like I talked about them rebuilding that offense and offensive line. They did a lot of it, and it's why you would, because people are already looking at the next head coach for the Bengals. It's why you may want a defensive guy like a Mike Vrabel. And a lot of people wanted a Mike Vrabel. I don't think the Bengals ever would have been in consideration for his services, but also I think he was always destined to go back to the Patriots. But you get, a guy like a Durden or a Jalen Hawkins or a Robert Spillane or a K'Lavon Chaisson, guys that can have career years under a defensive head coach that could probably put you in position to succeed. So when you're looking at that and what could be the upside of getting a defensive guy in here as the head coach, it could be because you can get some of these guys to bounce back. But they did a lot of free agent work and did a lot of draft work to get these guys to an acceptable level, because that defense was pretty bad last year for the Patriots.
Now, there's a topic for us in the future, Joe. The kind of coach conversation.
Oh, that's a whole episode.
And the history with defensive head coaches in recent years versus the history of a team that's built around a stud quarterback like Joe Burrow. Is there a reason to go that route when you look at the Tom Brady and the Peyton Manning careers and their pairings with defensive head coaches that led to some Super Bowls? That'll be a future conversation. I am not very excited for this game this weekend, Joe, for any reason other than to watch some guys and see if there's continued progress. Like if we see Myles Murphy go out there again and against this level of competition, put together another week, that would be some pretty exciting stuff. If we see any glimpses of growth from some of these guys, like can Dax Hill put together another nice game? I thought he was pretty good last week. Can DJ Turner bounce back and start making some plays again? It's been a little bit quiet for him lately. Like if you can find those three building blocks, like if those three guys and bigger ifs for each of those guys, I'm still on team extend DJ Turner. Dax Hill still got the 5th-year option next year. But if those three guys can continue to show that they can play at an individual level that can give you something, that's at least something to build on that side of the ball. And then on offense, it's going to be a big week to see how they adapt without Jamar Chase with Joe Flacco out there and that challenge. But we'll have you covered here either way on the Jake and Joe postgame show right after the game. We're giving away those Bengals starter jackets this week. Forgot to talk about the awesome giveaways we've got going on. Got the Bengals starter jackets this week. We've got the Thanksgiving special.
That's right. Quick turnaround.
We've got the pre-Black Friday giveaway, the Bengals wrap PlayStation 5. Got some awesome giveaways for you this week and next week. And so make sure you're with us on the postgame show. Make sure you're following at First Star Log on Twitter for the details of all those giveaways. And we'll be with you, like I said, after the game on Sunday, as we always are on the Jake and Joe Bengals postgame show. And First Star Logistics wants to wish you a happy RFP season. You can get on the fast track to freight business ownership with First Star Logistics. Make this RFP season truly wonderful by securing your future with First Star Logistics, America's leading asset-backed 3PL. Empowers you to own your own book of business in just 12 months. It's time to build, grow, and succeed. Don't wait. You can apply today at firststarlogistics.com. First Star Logistics, more than an MC, your partner in prosperity. And we appreciate First Star Logistics, as always, for giving Joe and myself this platform to talk to you about the Bengals every week. And like I said, we'll be back with you on Sunday. So until then, hope you enjoy the rest of your week. We'll catch you on the postgame show.